Hello everyone. Thank you for taking the time to look at my course project. I'm going to be presenting on bilingualism and the brain. I do have something of a vested interest in this topic, being a world language teacher. I'm going to be giving some examples as we go through the presentation. They're going to be from my experience as a Spanish teacher and my investment in the Spanish language. However, I think that you can draw connections to any other world language or even classical language such as Latin or Greek. To start, let's establish how many people are bilingual, multilingual, monolingual in the world. Martin cites a figure stating that approximately 50% of the world's population is bilingual or multilingual. In the United States, however, we're only looking at between 20 and 34% of the population. That's from a Gallup poll in 2013. I would probably be more comfortable stating a number, probably about 25% of the US population is bilingual or multilingual. Though for many people, they have an experience similar to that in the graphic that I have on the screen. Hola, there, that's all the Spanish I know. But even hola is a start at attaining proficiency in a second language. Something that I do with my Spanish 1 and 2 classes before we get into the main lesson is we do a warm-up, kind of transition them into thinking in the target language, preparing themselves for learning in the target language. So I'd like to do something similar to that with you all right now. So if you have a post-it note or a scratched piece of paper somewhere that you want to take out, you can go ahead and grab that. What I'm going to ask you to do, and this is something that I would do during the first week of school with my Spanish students, I like to use a lot of cognates for their warm-up activities to kind of show them how much they already know in the target language. A cognate is a word that looks like or sounds like its English equivalent, so they're very easy for the beginning learner to discern meaning from and take ownership in the fact that they're already on their way to language learning. So the first word that I have for you here is bicicleta. Bicicleta. So I'll give you a second, let you figure out, see if you know what it is. Bicicleta is bicycle. So as you can see, it's very similar in how it's written. It's very similar in how it's pronounced. The next one is elegante. Elegante. So I'll give you a second there to pause and come up with an answer. Okay, elegante means elegant. Elegant. The next one, apartamento. Apartamento. And that, of course, means apartment. The next one, nación. Nación. Now pause again for you. Nación means nation. Nation. As you can see on that one, there's only one letter difference between the English and the Spanish. And then the last one, accidente. Accidente. Pause. Okay, for accidente, you should have gotten accident. Now, I've also kind of sneaked in another cognate into this slide, and if you look at the little light bulb there, the friendly little light bulb, it says enfócate, enfócate. And what that means is focus. So you've already picked up a few words as we're beginning this presentation. Studies are showing that bilingual individuals show advantages in a variety of different areas, among which are executive functioning, academic achievement, creativity, and problem solving. As you can see in this graphic, there are some statistics here. 20% of Americans are bilingual. That percentage is fluid. Like on the first slide, it can be between 20%, it can be between 34%. That's why I feel more comfortable with the figure of 25%, kind of in the middle there. Over half the world's population is bilingual, and 55 million Americans speak a language other than English at home. Bilingualism isn't an express aim of American education. In that regard, a lot of other countries are ahead of us in that area. But that doesn't mean that language learning is mission impossible for the American student. Something that's really innovative that's occurring right now in Utah as a legacy of John Huntsman's governorship is the creation of several language immersion elementary schools. So students began these schools in kindergarten with zero proficiency in the target language. And as they're going through their schooling, they are attaining incredible amounts of proficiency by the fact that their schools are being taught in the target language. There are target schools for Mandarin, Spanish, French. I believe Portuguese is going to be added soon, but they're seeing a great deal of success of introducing language learning with these elementary age students who, as we know from the research in SUSE, are so malleable in terms of language. So the first bilingual effect that we're going to be talking about is executive function. Executive function incorporates skills that are independent of each other but require some sort of overlapping control. So some of the things here in this graphic, we have goals, planning, organization, flexibility. Those are things that are kind of disparate skills, but they work together. And people with strong executive function are able to tune one thing out, focus on what's important, switch gears pretty efficiently. You must resolve conflict from distracting cues and maintain rules in your working memory. The research is showing that bilinguals are actually very good at executive function, even when it's a task that doesn't require language production. The ongoing thought right now in bilingualism research is that both languages are constantly active even when they're not the one in use. So for example, even though I am speaking to you in English right now, my Spanish skills are still there, they're still active, they're just being sidetracked from what I'm doing right now. So it's active, it's there, but my brain knows, no, right now we're speaking in English, so Spanish, it's time for you to be quiet. That's an example of executive function at work. So the way that we might see executive function in the classroom might be in terms of metacognition. So if you look at the graphic on your screen, there's some different knowledges, different abilities that are directly related to executive function. With bilinguals, there's an advantage in executive function in young adults, and the difference may be even larger in older adults. These results came from a study that Bialystok and her colleagues did for the role of bilingualism in aging. And they were able to find that the bilingual brain actually deteriorates much more slowly than the monolingual brain. Executive function remains strong even as the individual ages. Another study by Culverman, Baker, and Petito found that bilinguals actually have a differentiated neural pattern of activation for each language. They did a study utilizing a functional MRI machine, and what they were able to find is when people were functioning in one language, their brain lit up in a different way as opposed to their second language, showing that each language kind of has its own blueprint in the brain. And by looking at the results, you can see by looking at the scans, oh, right now they're functioning in language 1, and now they're functioning in language 2. There's a distinct neural signature for that. The bilingual brain is energy efficient, it does not waste time, and it's an excellent task switcher. So the bilingual person is able to focus on a few more things at a time. they're able to have a more streamlined thought process. So let's take a break for another proficiency check. We see our Enfócate light bulb. So you're going to use some context clues. I know we use context clues a lot in reading. You're going to use a context clue to determine the meaning of the underlined Spanish word. And then on your scratch sheet of paper that hopefully you still have with you, you're going to write the Spanish word, which is bolded and underlined, and its English meaning. So, number 1. Why can't I go to the party? I asked my mom. Porque I said so, was her response. Okay, so the target word here is porque. So I'll give you a second to see if you can figure out what that is. Okay, porque. Because. Because I said so is the mom's response. Number 2. The couch won't fit through the door because it is too grande. Grande. This one might be a little easier, especially if you go to Starbucks frequently. Okay, grande, large. The couch is too large. Perhaps similar to that episode of Friends where they try to move a couch up the stairs. Okay, number 3. I woke up when Mario, my perro, started barking. Perro. Okay, perro means dog. I woke up when my dog started barking. And I'm sure many of you with pets have had that experience. The next thing we're going to look at in terms of the bilingual effect is academic achievement. In Sousa's text that we've read, he states that general intelligence is closely linked to the amount of gray matter in key areas of the frontal lobe. So, intelligence is being related to the amount of gray matter in the frontal lobe. Now, there's a study by Michelli et al. That found that bilinguals had denser gray matter in the left inferior parietal cortex of the brain. Granted, different area of the brain than the frontal lobe. However, it stands to reason that if intelligence is amplified by the amount of gray matter in the frontal lobe, there must be a correlation between denser, more abundant gray matter even in the left inferior parietal cortex. There seems to be just simply more connections to be working with. Michelli and her colleagues were able to conclude that the structure of the human brain is altered by the experience of acquiring a second language. So in the previous study that we talked about, there was evidence of a different neural signature, and now we're seeing a difference in the actual landscape of the brain. So beyond the electrical firings, we're now looking at there's simply more gray matter, denser gray matter. So we're seeing a physical and a neurological change happening by acquiring the second language. Bialystock also postulates that bilingualism creates a cognitive reserve that allows for a better performing and organized brain. Simply put, the brain is able to conserve its resources and know what needs more effort and what does not, and allows the brain to more efficiently organize itself in its thought processes. If you take a second to look at this graphic here that I have, it tells you about gray matter. It appears that meditation, another way that can increase gray matter. I know someone was talking about the influence of stillness, so this might be a way to help heal the brain. Liars have a deficit of gray matter. There simply isn't as much brain to go around for the liar. And 95% of our oxygen is going to the gray matter. So the gray matter here is very, very important in the brain's functioning. I'm going to go ahead and pause here, and we'll pick up with part 2 of academic achievement in part 2 of this presentation.